From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Imani Stevens. Tonight, we're taking a look at the top government stories that impacted our state, including the effect of the government shutdown, as well as some of the issues lawmakers took up at the state capitol.
Today, the Arizona Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a case that challenges the city of Phoenix for a law that enforces non-discrimination by businesses.
Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry was in court this morning and joins us live in the broadcast center.
The two artists who own the company Brush and Nib sued the city of Phoenix over a law that requires businesses not to discriminate against anyone. The artists take issue with being forced to create wedding invitations for same-sex couples. This morning, dozens of people supporting the artists gathered outside Arizona's Supreme Court. Just before, 7 Arizona Supreme Court justices heard arguments on a case questioning the city of Phoenix's compliance with free speech and religion rights. Brianna Koski and Joanna Duca are the owners of Brush and Nib Art Studio, a small business that creates hand paintings and calligraphy. In 2016, they sued the city of Phoenix over a law they say forces them to violate their religious views.
We love using our artistic talents to promote our religious beliefs about marriage. The sacred covenant of marriage between a man and a woman reminds us of the relationship between Jesus Christ and his church.
But no same-sex couple asked for Brush and Nib's services before they filed the lawsuit. They did it preemptively.
It can't discriminate based on who its customers are. It can't shut the door because somebody is has a different race or sex or religion or sexual orientation, disability, and so on.
The penalties for violating this code are hefty, including up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $2,500. Brush and Nib's attorney Jonathan Scruggs argued the case is about free speech rights for everyone.
It's not about who walks in the door, it's about what messages they're asked to convey. And that should protect all artists. That wouldn't force an LGBT artist, for example, to convey some message criticizing same-sex marriage if asked to do so by a religious group. So these freedoms go both ways.
Dozens of individuals and organizations filed briefs in support of the art studio, including Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich and 7 Republican leaders from other states. But attorney for the city Eric Frazier says it's not a partisan issue.
The only issue that this case addresses is whether businesses can discriminate, and that's something that should not fall on partisan lines.
A spokesman for the Arizona Supreme Court told me it could take up to 3 months for the justices to issue a decision. The art studio is still running and following the city law. The artists say they have received requests from same-sex couples but have not responded. In the broadcast center, Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Short-term solution to the government shutdown in the works. The Senate is expected to vote Thursday on 2 bills, one backed by President Trump that includes $5.7 billion for his border wall, and another that would simply extend funding for shuttered agencies through February 8th. Congressman Greg Stanton sat down with federal employees and their representatives to discuss how this shutdown has affected Arizonans. Cronkite News reporter Ariel Salk learned more about their concerns.
Why are we being put in the middle of this? We didn't ask for this. We're being, put in the middle. We're being held hostage. It feels like we're being held hostage in this situation, so it's hurtful.
Employees like TSA agent Aida Chavez have been forced to work without a paycheck, leaving her to feel trapped. Representative Greg Stanton listened to Chavez and other federal employees from all different departments yesterday.
That I can do is tell your stories as best of my ability and to pass reasonable bipartisan legislation, continue to do so until this thing ends.
Despite Chavez's frustration, she was pleased with how the roundtable turned out.
I felt heard. I'm glad that we had this. I feel that Congressman Stanton took into account what we had to say and is going to take it back to Washington with them, so I am confident about that.
The House and Senate are expected to take on different bills to end the shutdown this week, but Democrats and President Trump are in a stalemate over the border wall. In Phoenix, Ariel Salk, Cronkite News.
As the shutdown continues, food banks are feeling the strain. Those with government assistance for food and federal employees who aren't being paid are now needing more help to put food on the table. I talked with those who work to feed those in need.
I happened to have the day off today, so we came out to help.
Brian Bentley is usually at his job, working as a lead TSA officer at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, but he is among those affected by the shutdown.
My family is struggling as much as anyone. My family's trying to help out to meet ends, and my church too, but it can only last.
He helped with this food drive at a Queen Creek church, but he's unsure how much longer he'll be able to pay his bills on time if the shutdown drags on.
I don't know what's going to happen come February 1st.
On top of that, SNAP benefits were given out about 2 weeks earlier than normal, and there's no date for when the next food assistance could come.
If the government shutdown continues into February, we're serving government workers that we normally don't serve at the food bank, and then we get an influx of folks from that are getting by on food stamps and not using food bank services. That really makes for a perfect storm for food banks.
A storm that Angie Rogers of the Association of Arizona Food Banks says they are prepared for.
Some very fortunate circumstances right now. It's produce season in Arizona and in northern Mexico, so we are receiving a lot of fresh produce.
With the growing number of people in need, AFGE Local 1250, a union for TSA officers that Bentley serves as executive vice president for, is continuing to step in and help their co-workers until there's a resolution in Washington.
Public service is why all of us have really came into the federal government. After what happened in 9/11, you ask anyone, that's why they came.
St. Mary's Food Bank has held a food bank drive for TSA officers and employees at the Phoenix Indian Medical Center. There are not any upcoming dates for mobile food drives as of yet.
Leave a place cleaner than you left it. A common phrase taught to many of us as children. But with no one to enforce the rule, how many people actually follow it? Cronkite News reporter Nicole Hernandez spoke with volunteers in the Coconino National Forest who say the government shutdown left the ranger station trashed.
Red Rock Ranger Station in Sedona stood empty and trash-ridden for weeks.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. I was very disgusted when I saw that.
Arizona Natural History Association, or ANA, is a nonprofit organization that runs a gift shop at the ranger station. For the first few weeks of the government shutdown, this building was completely empty, so doing something as simple as getting a map was impossible for visitors. The U.S. Forest Service opened the doors for ANA, allowing them to keep the ranger station going during the shutdown. Now visitors can learn about Sedona, getting help and souvenir stamps during their stop, and understanding how to care for the park in the absence of rangers.
To me, it says that people are not informed. And so for us to be here and inform them, it once again becomes such a big responsibility for us.
Yeah, they're wonderful. They're really friendly. Volunteers, huh? It's like they're happy to be here.
You're very welcome.
The ANA employees who normally get paid for their work in the stations are going without a paycheck. And since they aren't federal employees, they won't get back pay.
My husband is also a federal employee, so that's 2 incomes not coming in to our house.
But they still show up, assisting the 300 to 500 people who show up every day.
It's not just a job, it's what we do.
In Sedona, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
Volunteers stress that educating visitors is important, especially those who come from out of the country and don't know anything about the current government shutdown.
Arizona Senator Kate Brophy-McGee introduced a bill this week that would ban texting and driving across the state. The proposed bill would make using a cell phone while driving a primary offense.
Currently, 43 states have a primary ban against text messaging for all drivers. 4 states, including Arizona, Florida, Nebraska, and Ohio, have secondary laws in place against texting while driving.
Meanwhile, Missouri and Ohio have a primary ban in place for younger drivers. However, the state of Montana has no law at all restricting the use of cell phones while driving.
Earlier this week, a report from the Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety ranked Arizona amongst the worst states for driver safety. Our state only has 4 laws in place regarding driver safety. Cronkite News reporter Amani Stevens is live in downtown Phoenix with more on their proposal to ban texting and driving in Arizona.
In an effort to get Arizona drivers' hands off their phones and on the wheel, State Senator Kate Brophy-McGee introduced Senate Bill 1165 to prevent all Arizona drivers, regardless of age, from distracted driving.
People getting killed and more stories coming out and more people getting killed and stories, it's all too often.
At to that, another story. The memory of Salt River Police Officer Clayton Townsend, who was struck by a distracted driver earlier this month. After more than a decade of attempts, Arizona lawmakers are demanding a change.
This is the DUI issue of our times.
State Senator McGee introduced SB 65. Not too long ago, a bill on texting while driving was introduced by former Democratic State Senator Farley. But McGee says her bill is different.
Farley's related to texting. This is really more a hands-free prohibition, because in that way you don't have to get in the face of the motorist and try and figure out if they were or weren't texting. They're either driving with their hands on the wheel, looking at the road, or they're not.
And to change the behavior, Oro Valley Police Chief Daniel Sharp, whose jurisdiction has adopted an ordinance on hands-free driving.
It's not about writing tickets or generating revenue or targeting any one individual group. This is about changing driving behavior and making our roadways safer.
Throughout the state, 21 municipalities have some form of law on distracted driving, and lawmakers say it's a statewide concern.
We need one uniform law that covers every municipality across the state so we can be safer.
And like Officer Townsend, Lyons, who was struck by a distracted driver while bicycling, says these incidents are preventable with strong legislation.
I can't relate. I didn't lose my life. I didn't lose a loved one. I lived through this. I now have a level of responsibility to utilize my voice when people like Officer Townsend no longer have one.
The bill has been assigned to the Transportation and Public Safety Committee, but it has not been heard. Live in downtown Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
The Arizona State Legislature has been in session for less than a month, and already we have a question about one lawmaker's ethics. Yesterday, Democratic Representative Reginald Boulding moved to expel Republican Representative David Stringer from the Arizona House. The move came after new documents relieved Stringer was accused of sex crimes in the 1980s. Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry talked to Boulding today and has a story.
And I motion to expel Representative David Stringer, and I request a roll call vote.
A bold move from State Representative Reginald Boulding, calling for the expulsion of Republican Representative David Stringer.
With Representative Stringer here, this cloud continues to hang over this body, and it makes it very difficult for us to move forward.
Boulding's motion comes after Governor Doug Ducey and other Democrats also called for Stringer to step down. But there's no code of conduct for state legislators, even after several scandals in recent sessions.
Unfortunately, Arizona has become the brunt of many late-night jokes because of some of the alleged improprieties that have taken place at the Arizona Capitol. It's really important that our state leaders are making sure that there is clear guidelines for behavior for elected officials and that those are being enforced in an equitable manner.
Last session, legislative leaders called for the creation of a code of conduct after Representative Don Shooter was accused of sexual harassment. But that's up to new legislative leaders.
I don't think it's all that complicated, and I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I think there's standards out there that we can apply and then adapt to. I don't think it's that difficult, but we just need the energies to do it.
Those leaders, including Senate President Karen Fann and House Speaker Rusty Bowers, did not respond to requests for an interview. So until there's a code of conduct, or until Stringer steps down, Boulding says he'll keep the pressure on.
What we do know is that it's important to make sure that people are held accountable, and those who elected us know that they have people who are fighting for them.
The House voted to recess on Monday before voting on Stringer's expulsion. For now, the House Ethics Committee will investigate complaints against Stringer. In Phoenix, Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Jacob Martinez is known as one of the March for Our Lives leaders in Arizona, but as reporter Gabriela Becerra tells us, the Dobson High School senior has big plans after graduation.
After high school graduation, a lot of teens go away to college, join the military, travel. But for this 17-year-old, he decided to run for office in his hometown. Jacob Martinez is a 17-year-old high school senior who enjoys hanging out with his friends at Dutch Bros.
I kind of want hot chocolate. That sounds good.
And last year, he spent his free time fighting for tighter gun restrictions with other high school students. But now Martinez will spend the last months of his senior year campaigning to be councilman of Mesa's 3rd district. He says he is ready to bring a fresh perspective to his city.
I believe I have a unique experience and perspective when it comes to the future of the city, and I believe I can be a major asset in steering us forward in a positive way.
If elected, Martinez will be one of the youngest to serve on Mesa City Council. He says his experience proves he's ready.
Through the last year, I've garnered so much experience, from serving on city committees to advising congressional leadership, where I have a lot of the same experience, if not more, than a lot of people in office right now. They just got started later than I did.
Former Mesa City Councilman Ryan Winkle has been a mentor to Martinez. Winkle was voted off the council in 2017, and he says he was surprised Martinez decided to run for this seat right away.
I didn't expect him to go right now for city council, because there's other steps, like usually people start at school board or something like that, you know.
Winkle says his age will benefit Martinez in his efforts to make change.
He has a better focus, and I think when you're younger, you're a little more altruistic to like your cause, you know? So you have some hardcore focus on what you want to do.
Martinez's friends, on the other hand, aren't surprised by his campaign.
It's not strange for him, like, I totally expect something like that.
Emma Murray says she knows from their friendly feuds that he can fairly see all sides of a situation.
Even with the views that he has, he's very, like, reasonable. Because, like, me and him have our disagreements, but there's always, like, a middle ground that we can, like, agree with each other.
As of now, no other candidates have put their name in the race. Martinez is graduating in May and is planning on attending Arizona State University in the fall. In the broadcast center, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
From inmate to activist, one woman has made it her mission to raise public awareness about the difficulties inmates face when re-entering society. Cronkite News reporter Bayan Wang had a chance to learn about her initiative.
So I would just say, hi, I'm Sue Ellen Allen, and I just got out of prison.
Sue Ellen Allen got out of prison 10 years ago.
I served 7 years for securities fraud.
And she's continuing to pursue a calling she discovered behind bars.
I wanted to go back into the prison and teach leadership.
Now she's raising public awareness and empathy towards the struggles inmates face when they are released.
We are at All Saints Episcopal Church having a re-entry simulation. It's a 2-hour experience where what I like to call normal human beings are here to experience what it's like to get out of prison.
At the beginning of the simulation, each of the 50 attendees were handed a certain amount of fake money. Then, for 3 15-minute rounds, they would visit a variety of public institutions like food banks, social services, and probation offices.
I couldn't believe it. I went to a food bank and they took a bus ticket from me.
I couldn't get plasma unless I had a state ID.
I don't have any money. I need to cash my check.
I say getting out of prison is like being shot out of a cannon, naked and blindfolded into a brick wall. And they're experiencing that.
By the end of the simulation, several reflected on what they learned.
The goal is for people to be productive and not to feel like being in jail is better than living in the free world.
It's hard. Being a good citizen is hard, but it's worth it.
In Phoenix, Bayan Wang, Cronkite News.
In March, Sue Ellen Allen says she'll be talking to state lawmakers about the measures to aid former inmates in getting jobs and transitioning back into society.
Right now, thousands of veterans are lining up at the Arizona State Fairgrounds to take advantage of the Maricopa County Stand Down event, providing free care to vets at risk of homelessness. But with more and more veterans showing up each year, the event has had to make some changes in order to keep up with the high demand. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Hernandez spoke with a veteran who has attended the event for several years.
Barbers, judges, and doctors, just a few of the things these veterans from the Valley are lining up for.
I've suffered from a lot of different things, but one of them is PTSD. I was a POW, and so this is a safe zone really for me.
The event, run by the Arizona Housing Coalition, started 18 years ago, serving just a couple hundred veterans. Now, thousands of people register over the course of the 2 days.
It's one of the things I look forward to. It's like, for me, it's like the 4th of July.
According to the Maricopa Association of Governments, the total number of unsheltered homeless people has steadily increased over the years. But for veterans attending the Stand Down event, it's a different story.
When we first started about 18 years ago, there were about 80% of the people who showed up did not have a place to live, and about 20% were in housing. Over the years, that's flipped.
Because of the veterans' changing needs and large attendance, Stand Down has made some recent changes. The event no longer offers overnight stays, donated shoes or clothes, and it's become more than just a place to get help.
It's a good time. It's not only a time to take care of problems, but it's a time to fellowship and a good, safe time for me. Some of these guys I don't see but once a year, and that's here.
Most of the services are available to veterans year-round, but many of them have trouble getting to them on a regular basis. In Phoenix, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
The event continues tomorrow starting at 7 a.m. and running until 4:30 p.m.
Helping the homeless by not giving them cash, but helping them earn it. That's the idea of the program called Glendale Works, a partnership with the Phoenix Rescue Mission and the City of Glendale to give people experiencing homelessness an opportunity to earn money, build their self-esteem, and have a second chance at life. I went to the site to meet with a participant who had an unexpected road to being homeless.
I've always provided for myself. Just a situation like this, like I said, it was just unprecedented, unpredictable.
William Lee moved from California to Arizona about 2 years ago. And when he arrived to the desert state, he worked at a few temporary jobs for a moment. But when his car broke down, he was unable to get to work and pay his rent.
When you can't pay rent, then you're at the mercy of other people.
And through word of mouth, Lee found out about the program.
I love it when I pull up and there's a bunch of people.
But Gabe Pretty, street outreach case manager assistant, says it's not the money that brings people out before the sunrise. It's the desire to change and improve.
You're sleeping behind a church or behind whatever. It's not the easiest thing to get up and make it to a spot by 6:45 in the morning.
Workers get $55 for the 5-hour shift to clean up and beautify the streets of Glendale.
I have people signed up all the way until I'm working on the 11th right now. So I got 8 people signed up for every day up until the 11th, Monday through Thursday.
In just 2 months, the program has given a hand up to more than 70 participants.
A lot of people, want a second chance or want a chance. They just had a downfall. They just want to help to get back up on their feet.
And the program goes beyond day labor. Lee says Glendale Works has helped him with enrolling in school and finding a job.
And you want doors to open, and some doors open, some doors don't. But this place, they try to do as much as they can.
To hire more people in need, the Phoenix Rescue Mission is looking to possibly adding on an additional van to take the work off the hands of the City of Glendale Parks Department.
Arizona joins California in offering the option to buy digital license plates rather than having a sheet of metal. Drivers can now have an LCD screen on the back of their vehicle. Reporter Gabrielle Bacara tells us more about the functionality of digital license plates.
These new plates are called R-Plate digital license plates, and they're being compared to a tablet device for their LTE wireless connection capabilities. I spoke to ADOT earlier today to find out exactly what the new features of these digitized license plates can offer to Arizona drivers.
Arizona is the second state to do this, so we're very much on the cutting edge.
The LCD plates are able to be customized and display personal messages and notifications. Doug Nick, MVD spokesperson, says this tool can also be beneficial for law enforcement.
If the plate had a message below stolen, well, obviously law enforcement is going to be able to use that very easily as a tool to find a stolen vehicle. Or if it's invalid, the registration needs to be renewed. That's something that law enforcement is also interested in.
Last year, ADOT tested these digital plates on about a dozen of their maintenance vehicles across the state.
We wanted to see how they do, obviously, to sun exposure, to heat, to cold, ice, rain, everything that motorists in Arizona encounter. We put these plates through, and the current iteration that is being authorized to be sold by Reviver is one that we felt was robust enough to handle those things.
The plates are now available for pre-order from Reviver Auto, starting at $499 for the Essential Arizona R-Plate and $799 for the Pro Arizona R-Plate. ADOT will not be receiving any proceeds from the sales of these digitized license plates. They can be purchased online from Reviver Auto or from participating resellers. Live in downtown Phoenix, Gabriella Becerra, Cronkite News.
Phoenix police hosted a cosplay-themed fundraising event raising money for injured officers and child victims of crime. Cronkite News reporter Bayan Wang has more.
There's never been an easy time to be a police officer.
2018 was a record year for Phoenix police.
The department experienced more officer-involved shootings than ever before, according to data from the city of Phoenix.
That's always a hard conversation to talk about.
But Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams says assaults on officers also increased. In a Facebook post, she says, in 2017, 4.2% of assaults on officers involved firearms. This year, that number has grown to 10%. There has been a 45% increase in overall assaults against officers as well.
People are pulling guns and knives on us at a rate much higher than in the past.
I've had friends that have been murdered in the line of duty.
Hundreds put on their capes, armors, and masks as they spent the afternoon raising money for injured officers and children who were victims of crime.
This is the least we can do just to bring awareness and help them out.
Cosplayers held a costume competition and several purchased raffle tickets.
It's about having fun, getting together, and to support all the police officers and other servicemen and women.
While many are dressed in superhero attire, several said that the real heroes are the men and women in police uniforms.
The fact that they have a family that, that are at home and they never know that they're going to get to see their family members again, but they still go out of their way to help people every day. That, in my opinion, that's what makes a hero.
To do something like this, where people can just make friends, see old friends, have a good time for a good cause. That's what it means to me.
Officers and the community were able to raise over $10,000 during the event, which will go to the nonprofit organization Child Help, as well as the family of Salt River Police Officer Clayton Townsend, who was killed in the line of duty. In Phoenix, Bayan Wang, Cronkite News.
More than half of the donations will go to Townsend's family.
That's it for this special edition of Cronkite News. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.